Thanks everyone for joining. We'll get started in just a moment here. Okay, welcome everyone. Glad you could join us today for our 1-hour webinar, Maximize Your AP Impact Action Steps for Success. Our speaker is Mary Schaeffer, who I'll introduce shortly. First, I'd like to quickly go over several housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded and attendees will receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording on our website. All participants are muted to prevent background noise, so please type in any questions you may have into the Q&A section. There will be a post-webinar survey that will appear when the webinar ends. Please use the survey to let us know how we are doing and to request any additional information. We really appreciate your feedback. And for those of you not familiar with MHC, we help organizations tackle digital transformation with speed and confidence using our solutions to automate the capture, transformation, and communication of paper and digital documents across core business processes. Our flexible end-to-end automation platform helps users eliminate tedious procure-to-pay and order-to-cash tasks. And I will now introduce our incredible speaker for today, Mary. Mary is an expert in AP and host of the AP Now podcast, available on the AP Now YouTube channel. And she has many other impressive accomplishments you can read through here. And I will now hand it over to Mary.
Thanks, MHC and Sarah. And thank you everybody for coming to join us today to talk about one of my favorite topics, accounts payable, and more importantly, what you can do to maximize your impact. We're all kind of looking for ways to stand out, ways we can add value. So real quickly, I'm going to talk just for a minute or two about why maximizing matters. And then we're going to talk about some tactics you can use yourself. And by the way, after I finish going through this, I think the last slide I have my email address, either in the questions or in the comments. If you share some tactics, some things that you have done that others might emulate, I'd love to hear from you, and I know the audience would love to hear from you. So please feel free to, enter your tactic that we haven't discussed. Okay, enough about that. And then I'm going to talk about what this means for you and how you can utilize this yourself. And then we'll have just a minute or so from MHC. Okay, so our first polling question to get started. Which of the following do you use? Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, two of the above or none of the above? And I kind of think this is interesting, because if we were doing this talk a year ago, just one short year ago, probably most of us would not know, including me, by the way, what any of these things were. And today, now it's more, it's second nature to us, at least to talk about them. We may not use them. So I'm curious to see what the results are. Okay, so most of you basically are not using any of these, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit, and I'm also going to give you some information about how you can learn to use them. I have to tell you that I use both Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT myself, and they are not difficult. I almost want to say they're intuitive, but anyway, I'm going to have some tips for you on that. Okay. So why is this so important? Why do we even bother talking about this? So let's talk a little bit about AI. As you probably could tell, I believe we cannot talk about improving our accounts payable function or our accounting function, or even just operating on an ongoing basis without talking about AI. It's making an impact. And the sooner we all pull our heads out of the sand, myself included, the sooner we'll be better off. Many folks, when we start talking about AI and the impact it's going to have on our accounting and accounts payable space, it makes them feel a little unsettled. And I get it, okay? I really do, because you're not sure what this means for you. And then, you hear all these crazy statistics, people talking about, well, we won't need the accounts payable function, or we won't need the accounting function. And I'm here to tell you that maybe 25 or 30 years from now, that may be close to the case, although I don't think it ever will be. We're nowhere near there. So, if you're feeling unsettled, know that you have a lot of company, but know really that you shouldn't. If you want to stand out as an innovator within your organization, you want to start using it because, there are some things it can do, and I'm going to talk about them as we go through, that will result in cost savings for your organization. And that, it always makes you look good when you can recommend something that saves the organization some money. I also want to talk just for a minute about the impact, if you will, that AI is going to have. It's going to change our jobs, okay? It won't necessarily eliminate them, won't even completely eliminate certain tasks, but it will change it. And it's important that you understand that your job will change. And I like to think that when it changes, it's going to change for the better. And it's important for you to figure out how you can use it and how you can make the change, because better you do it than somebody else do it and then kind of cram it down your throat. You can do it in a way that is more amenable to you. Why do you want to maximize your impact? Why do you want to stand out? I want to talk a little bit about management. Many management teams, but definitely not all of them. And if you're lucky and you don't work for one of the companies that looks at this, but they have this attitude like, what have you done for me today? Yeah, it was nice that you made this great suggestion and we implemented it. We saved money last year, but that was last year. Okay, you can't rest on your laurels, on your past achievements. You have to be continually looking to add value. You hear people always talk about continuous process improvement, and this is part of why you can't rest on your laurels. But today, that competition is going to come from unusual places. We always, we kind of looking over our shoulder and looking for competition, basically from some of our peers maybe, but today that competition is coming from all sorts of different places. Technology and AI are definitely making an impact. They're making us more efficient and more effective. And we're also getting to the point where certain tasks can be eliminated. So real simple example when it comes to accounts payable is both opening the mail and data entry. So we are fast approaching, and I'm probably going to mention this a few times today, a time when we no longer get our invoices by mail. Already, most companies are receiving over 70% of their invoices electronically, either through an automation solution such as MHC or through email, and then the invoice can be processed without ever printing it, or it can automatically be read into an automation solution. Okay, this means that we have less data entry. And just as an aside, because I can't resist, if you're getting most of your invoices by email, I hope you're not printing them out. I hope that you are processing them without actually printing them. Okay, something else to consider, and I'm going to come back to this several times during the day. Whenever we're talking about making improvements, making changes, we're always looking for that big, that wow, that eye-opening improvement that we can recommend that will, save a gazillion dollars. But I also want us to focus on the small stuff because small improvements add up. I used to work for a company where the chief executive was really very, very successful. He used to say, watch your pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. I don't know if 100% agree with that, but he was on the right track there. So you just remember that, one big project, sometimes it's impossible to get done because you can't get the funding for it, even though it would make a big difference, but small improvements add up. So don't forget that. So you want to keep track of whatever, and we're going to talk about them. Keep track of your process improvements that you recommend, and make sure others know about them. Don't just make these small changes and then don't bother to tell your boss. You tell them. You don't want to constantly brag about it because that can be really annoying. And after a while, like nobody wants to hear from you anymore. But you do want to document them, and a great way to do this, I believe, is in your annual review. What I like to recommend that people do is once a year, they write a letter or memo, whatever you want to call it, an email, where they document what they've done during the year and they share it with the boss. I like to suggest that you do that right before you know the company is going to allocate money for raises, not before, not at the point where they tell you. So many organizations, for example, will tell employees about their raises in the second half of December because the raises become effective January 1st. But those raises in your company, that money may have been allocated in November or even October. So you probably know when that is going to take place and you want to do it before then. So your boss has in his mind fresh all your accomplishments that you need to be rewarded for. So what we are trying to do in this moment, in this time going forward, is stand out from the crowd, okay? Being average is not really good enough. It's especially not good enough, and it's not adequate if you want to get promoted. So you have to identify areas where you can have process improvements. And this can mean efficiency improvements, where the function becomes more efficient. And that's where products like MHC and their other invoice automation solutions come in. And of course, where the company can save money. And also, a lot of times, not 100% of the time, but many times, efficiency translates into cost savings. Sometimes efficiency just translates into stronger internal controls, which means, less chance of fraud. But whatever it is, you want to identify those areas and you want to keep track of them. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go through my ideas about what you can do. But if you have additional suggestions that you were willing to share with us, please put them in the comments section, and we'll share them with everyone. Or if you think of something tonight, I'd love to hear from you. As I said, my email's at the end. Okay, so what are these tactics? What are you going to do to make yourself stand out? So the first thing I like to recommend, and I think this is the best practice, is what I call a process audit. Once a year, you want to take a step back and you want to go through your accounts payable process from, how do we do our work? Step by step by step. And when you're doing this, you want to identify those spots where you tend to have the most problems. So maybe you get a lot of discrepant invoices, for example. Well, in that case, you want to take a deeper dive and you want to look, is the problem the invoice? Is the problem the purchase order? Is the problem perhaps receiving? Where is the problem? And then when you find the problem, then you want to take the steps to investigate it and see what you can do. Maybe the problem is invoices, maybe certain suppliers. If you get 1,000 invoices a month, let's say, and you look at your discrepant invoices and maybe you have 25, or probably have more than 25. Let's say you have 100 discrepant invoices and 10 of them are from one supplier. Well, then you want to go back and look, is it the supplier or was it the purchase orders? Where's the problem? You also want to, if anytime you have a duplicate payment and you become aware of it, you want to investigate what happened, why did we make that duplicate payment, where was the weakness, where was the flaw in our system, where we fell down, if you will, that payment got made, and then of course you want to fix it. Likewise, when you get supplier credits, you want to take a look at them. How was this credit created? You want to recover it, but recovering that credit takes time. You have to go through, you have to find it, etc. Better not to create the credit in the first place. When you're going through your audit, your process audit, you want to see, hey, is there any new technology out there that we can use? Any new technology that would make us more efficient? Are there any new best practices? Now, sometimes new best practices make you more efficient, make the process work a little smoother. Sometimes, and I'm thinking about this verification of all change of bank account requests that come in by email. Sometimes your best practice is just tighten controls. They may even add a little work, but they add that work so that you don't get hit with a fraud. So yes, you might be adding an hour's worth of work, let's say, to your work each week, but if you don't get hit with a $100,000 fraud, that's probably time well spent. You also want to think, if you've been to talks like this, or you've talked to your colleagues at other country, are there new processes? Again, the verification comes to mind that others are using that you should be using. And again, sometimes it will make you more efficient. For example, if you adopt new technology, sometimes it will just protect you better against fraud. And once you've identified these, how can you integrate them into your current operations? Where can you integrate them? Okay, this is another one of my favorites. And, when we talk about things that we never talk about, we rarely ever talk about this one. And that is unnecessary reporting. So what you want to do, and I'm a big lover, by the way, of spreadsheets. So I'm a great one for always putting the data in spreadsheets. You want to make a list of the regular reporting that you do. And then once you've got that list in there, you want to go through and evaluate, do I think these are really necessary? Now, a lot of times what will happen is a company will get into a situation and they start a new report because it will address that situation. The really simple one, the most obvious one, is maybe you're doing your organization was having tight cash flow. They were having monetary problems, and so you started doing a daily cash flow report. And that was really important when you were in this tight cash flow, when you were trying to determine which bills to pay, how much money came in, and it was really important. But then that passes, and now everything is robust. And you don't have to do that daily evaluation, but you're still doing the daily cash flow. Only thing, nobody's looking at that report anymore. So you want to compile your list of reports that you're doing. Then you want to figure out, are they necessary? If you think they're not necessary, you need to have a conversation before you just arbitrarily stop doing it, because you may think it's not necessary, but then when you talk to somebody else, they'll say, oh yeah, we need that. We use it for blah, 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 blah. And it's something you'd never thought about. Okay. And you may not have enough information. So you want to ask the people who are receiving it, what are they doing with it? And if they say, oh, I just look at it, that's interesting, but they don't really make any decisions from it, then maybe it's a report that can be eliminated. And again, you want to ask folks not only what are they doing with it, what are they using it for? Just to see what's going on. Maybe that's important. It might be, but it also could be simply that you don't need to be doing it, and that the time spent putting that report together could be better used for something else. So then you want to evaluate, once you get all your data collected, are you going to be able to stop doing some of them? Also, you want to look at some of the reports and see, are two different people producing the same information? Okay, so you're basically doing the same thing twice. And then if they are, maybe you can eliminate one of them doing it. Also, when you're looking to get rid of certain reports, you want to see, hey, John Jones is getting this piece of information from report A, but maybe it's on report B, and if we gave him report B, then we could eliminate this, okay? Also, can you do an abbreviated version, okay? Now, this is the last sticky issue that I want to bring up, and it is sticky because sometimes what happens is accounts payable is doing a particular report, especially if it's one that takes a lot of time, but it really has nothing to do with them. For somehow you got stuck with this particular piece of work. So you don't need it. It doesn't really have anything to do with AP. Should another department be doing it? And if the answer to that is yes, then you need to talk to someone. But this is a sticky conversation, and this might be one where you need to get your boss involved. Because basically, you're going to hoist some of this work off onto another department who may not be so happy. All right, so let's talk about your next tactic, what I call small process improvements. I've kind of already alluded to this, but a lot of times small changes, they add up, and you can make some savings that way. But many times you don't know what these small process improvements are, because you're not intimately aware of it if you're the manager, for example. I like to say that the people who are most aware of the process improvements that can be made and that will add real value are the people who handle the work on a day in, day out basis, because they know the nitty gritty, they know what has to be done and maybe what doesn't have to be done. Okay. So what you can do is you have a staff meeting or a staff luncheon. I like to suggest a staff luncheon because it's nice if the company will, chip in and buy everybody a pizza or something. But it doesn't matter. You can do it either way. And before the meeting, you can tell that you want each person to come with 3 to 5 process improvement suggestions. Now, hopefully they'll come with 3 to 5. Some of them may not come with any, whatever. And some of them will be repetition. And then you can, go around the table, each person make their say what they think. The rest of the team can chime in. Sometimes somebody will say, well, we can get rid of A, B, C. And somebody else will say, no, we can't. We need that because of X, Y, Z. So you go through, you'll make notes, and then hopefully you'll come up with a list of, I don't know, 5 to 10 small improvements that you can make. So as I said, some of them will be good, some of them you'll want to do, some of them not so much. But whatever you do, you'll make your list. You don't have to make any decision at the meeting. In fact, you probably shouldn't because you want to evaluate them. Thank everyone, whatever, even if the suggestion is horrible, you don't want to tell the person that was a horrible suggestion. And then you want to make a list, see what you can implement, see what you can't. And then this is a group project. And I make a big to-do about it being a group project because you want to make sure that you give credit. Remember, this is not a process improvement that you came up with. This is one that the group came up with. So you want to make sure that everybody gets credit for their suggestions, and it is a great way to improve morale. When you implement a suggestion from a lower level person, somebody who made the suggestion, and they're given credit for it, it does a really great job for increasing morale. If somebody had made a suggestion that you're not going to implement, you probably want to give them a reason, but you need to be very careful on what you do. Sometimes you won't implement it because the CFO will never do that, even though it's a good suggestion. Sometimes it's a terrible suggestion, and then you might want to very gently point out, well, if we did that, it would save us time, but it would be an internal control weaknesses, and the auditors would not approve of it. You can blame a lot on the auditors, whatever. You want to give people a reason, and you also want to create this atmosphere where everybody feels that they can make suggestions. They won't be made fun of. Some of them will be implemented. Okay, so you can achieve a few things here by giving credit to everybody. And so this can be a double thing. You can obviously get the process improvements that you need, and then you can, it can also be a morale building exercise. This is one of those things that you might want to do once a year because, there'll be new things that come up. All right. And a lot of times there'll be things that the manager would never have thought of on their own. Everybody can make a contribution. All right. Tactic number 4. You want to aggressively eliminate vendor credits. Now, to do this, I'm not saying that you don't want to get them. You want to absolutely go after your vendor credits and collect all the money that you're owed, okay? That to me should almost be a no-brainer. But then you want to go through and you want to analyze why these credits occurred in the first place. And there could be several reasons. I'm going to give you a few. You're probably going to come up with some others on your own. They can be duplicate payments, okay? You make a duplicate payment, oftentimes, instead of just, sending the check back if you paid by check, or, returning the ACH, the supplier will have deposited the money, because often the money goes either into a lockbox or right into their bank account, whatever, but they'll give you a vendor credit. And then when you request your vendor statement or they send it to you and you see the credits, you want to investigate. So if it was a duplicate payment, then you want to investigate, okay, why was that duplicate payment made? Where was the weakness? What can we do to change it? Okay. There may have been returns. And then you might want to look into that. Or sometimes that's just going to happen. It's the nature of the business. And if it's the nature of your business that there's a certain amount of breakage and a certain amount of returns, then you really want to make sure that you stay on top of the vendor credits and you get them, you collect them on a regular basis. And sometimes you may have earned a quantity discount. Now that will happen most likely when you have several different locations ordering the same product from the same supplier. Individually, they may not qualify for the quantity discounts, but when at the supplier's location where they get all these orders, they may realize that you earned the quantity discount and then they may give you the credit. Obviously, you want to take the money from them. That's a really honorable supplier because you might not have realized it on your own. And then you might want to see if you can change your processes so that you take the discount that you were offered when you make the purchase. But maybe you can't. Maybe it's just too much work or it's too disjointed. And then again, you want to make sure you constantly get your vendor statements so that you can recover all these credits that you're entitled to. In your analysis, you get your vendor credits. You want to identify those vendors with the most credits, the processes with the most credits, the purchases with the most credits, and then you want to look into the workflow of those particular people and see if the reason they're getting so many credits is there's a problem that can be fixed. Now, as we've already talked on the last slide, it might just be the nature of the business, and in which case then you just got to go and collect the credits. But if you can identify a common reason, then you can work to eliminate it. Now, this is one of those tasks, like some of the others that we've discussed today, that you need to work on a regular basis. So maybe once every 6 months or once every year, you need to do this analysis and figure out where your credits are, and it should be an ongoing project. Will you ever get to the point where you completely eliminate them? Probably most of us will never get there, which is why you have to constantly go back and review. Sometimes you'll eliminate a problem and there'll be no credits with the particular vendor, but then there'll be a change in staffing, either on your location, one of your purchasing locations, or with the supplier, and then before you know it, you've got the problem back. Or somebody changes their processes at one of your purchases and you have the problem. For example, also one of your suppliers may, replace somebody and then that creates a problem, or you may get somebody new in purchasing and they don't fill out the purchase orders correctly, etc. So training is a whole bunch of reasons, but you want to figure out the reason and then work to address it. Okay, paper. We want to get rid of as much paper as we can. Because paper, well, you don't need me to tell you why paper is inefficient and why you should be getting rid of as much paper as you can. So let's start off by talking about invoices. We want to discourage our suppliers from sending invoices via postal mail. When they come in, they either have to be scanned or the information has to be keyed in. And of course, anytime you key in information, then there's an increased chance of a keying error. So you want to encourage them either to email their invoices or to send them through the portal. This, by the way, is one of those areas where I think we can almost hit 100% and be almost 100% effective, because most suppliers, especially after COVID, and they saw what happened when their invoices weren't delivered during COVID, they understand the beauty of emailing invoices. Plus, they like not paying for the postage. So it's not as difficult a conversation as it is on the payment side. Also, you want to obviously get an automation solution, and your automation solution, I'm probably like a broken record with this, but should have the ability to read from email, read a PDF from an email, okay? Not have the person have to re-key the information. Now, when it comes to payments, if you're a US company or a Canadian company, especially a US company, we've not done a great job, to be honest, of converting to electronic payments. whenever I go to Europe, usually to England, and I talk and I mention our paper checks, everybody has a good laugh at my expense, but we are getting there. You know, I recently saw a statistic that said only 33% of all B2B payments are being made by paper check. Interestingly, by the way, as an aside, consumers have done an even better job on that front. But, you know, we're here today to talk about our business life. And so we want to convert as many of our B2B payments away from paper checks. And the two main ways that we do this are to either pay by ACH or pay with P card. Now, P card, I just, you know, sometimes, you know, the easy answer says, oh, we'll just pay with everything with a P card. It doesn't cost us anything. Yes, it doesn't cost you anything, but it costs your supplier something when they have to take the payment on P card. And most of your suppliers are going to be happy to take P cards for small dollar amounts. But, and this is a big but, the larger the amount gets, the less happy they're going to be with you. And just think about it, you know, the fee usually for accepting a P card will usually be around 3%. Let's just say 3%. Occasionally it's lower, but in the business world, let's say 3%. So, you know, if you're getting a $100 payment, nobody minds paying the $3, not to have to get the paper check, take it to the bank, make the deposit, take it the whole bit. But if you're getting a $100,000 payment, nobody is real thrilled about paying $3,000 to get that money. Now, some of the banks will have e-payables project and they'll say, well, our fee is lower. But even if it's 1%, nobody is going to be happy with that $100,000 payment, paying $1,000 to get the money in the bank. So you want to be a little cognizant and understanding of your suppliers. So move to ACH. And just a simple tip, if they're getting some pushback and they don't seem to like it, you can ask the particular person, are they getting direct deposit or payroll? And if the answer is yes, then they are already receiving ACH payments. Okay, I'm going to stop carrying on about that. I'm hoping we're already on the same page. The next tactic is you want to enhance your knowledge base. And you know where I'm going with this. I'm talking mainly, but not only, about technology and AI. So very recently, there was a survey done by LinkedIn and Microsoft, which was called the 2024 Work Trend Index Annual Report. And from this report, of the people that they surveyed, 75% said they were already using AI at work. Now, I know from the data that we collected at the beginning from our first polling question that in our particular world, in the accounts payable world of the folks who are on the call today, we're nowhere near 75%. But keep in mind that of this 75%, 46% said they had started less than 6 months ago. So it's not like there's a whole lot of people on the train ahead of you and you're way behind. You're not. You've still got plenty of time. Now, but even more scary, if you will, than that, when the management teams that they interviewed from in that group said 66% of them said they would not hire somebody who did not have AI skills. Now, before you're clutching your heart saying, but I don't have any AI skills, how am I going to get them? I'm going to show you, and I promise you it is not difficult. And even more startling than that, 71% said they would rather hire a less experienced candidate who had some AI skills than a more experienced candidate. And let me make something clear to you. I am not talking about being a coder or being a programmer. I'm talking about how to use the tool. So just like you know how to use Excel, and maybe you know how to use PowerPoint, we all certainly know how to use Word. That's what I'm talking about, okay? And I promise you can do it. So, but how are you going to do it? In all likelihood, your company is not lining up to send you to school to learn how to use ChatGPT. And my answer to you is it's not difficult. You can teach yourself, okay? And if you're wondering how, let me just see, no, I don't have that. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to tell you on the AP Now YouTube channel, I have a short, like 10, 15 minutes, I forget how long it is, they are. One on how to use ChatGPT and one how to use Microsoft Copilot. So I encourage you to look at that and I promise you, you'll like it. I love Microsoft Copilot whenever I do any searches now, rather than just doing a Google search, because it cuts through all the garbage. And by garbage, I mean, all the things that they're trying to sell you. I was recently looking for, my daughter needed ibuprofen and she needed the liquid form. And we were trying to determine if you needed a prescription for that. And no matter what I put into Google, it kept coming up with all sites trying to sell me ibuprofen. I went to Microsoft Copilot, I put the question in, it came back and said, yes, you need a prescription. That's all I wanted to know, okay? Much easier. It was like an eye opener. Okay, and they're not difficult, okay? I did it, I taught myself. Our next polling question, which of the following soft skills would you like to improve? Your writing ability, your public speaking, managerial skills, all of the above, or other. And if you have an other, by the way, you can pop it into the comment field. And I'd certainly be interested in hearing what you had to say. And I'm curious on this. In fact, I'm going to take notes. Writing, public speaking, managerial, all. We don't talk about these so much anymore. We seem to be so focused, me too, on the other skills, the technology, but these are important also. You need both, okay? You don't just need one. All right. Okay, and I'm real pleased to see that half of you said all of the above, and 28% of you said managerial writing. I see nobody saying public speaking. Let me just tell you something about public speaking. I do a lot of it. It's scary. I'm not going to deny it. It's scary when you've got to get up in front of a crowd and they're all looking at you. But I can tell you that there's a simple way to get better at it, and you're not going to like this. And that is to do it. The more you do it, the less scary it is. All right, I'm going to stop yammering about that. So probably will come to no surprise for you to learn that adding a soft skill is also a good idea. As I said, we focus so much on the technology these days, but the soft skills are important. You need both, okay? You're not going to get by just ignoring the technology completely, but you're also not going to get by without any of your soft skills. So your communication skills are both verbal and nonverbal, okay, and written. And then presentation, it's speaking and PowerPoint. And when I say PowerPoint, by the way, I also, I'm using that as a generic term to encompass, what is it, Google Sheets? No, it's not Google Sheets, it's Google something, and Apple presentation, I think it is, but you get where I'm going. Okay, also your managerial skills, your leadership skills, learn how to coach, learn how to mentor, and conflict management. If you want to, by the way, practice your public speaking skills, which I know a lot of you aren't thrilled about, think about joining Toastmasters. Okay, and I don't know why this is probably something I did. I am screen sharing. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. That was me, sorry. Okay, now your tactic number 8, you know you weren't going to get away with this, is to embrace AI, okay? You want to learn about it. You want to learn about it. You want to learn how to use it, and you want to make it a tool in your arsenal. And once you learn how to craft queries, which I'm going to talk about, you probably want to include that on your resume. Just make sure you can do it. It's never a good idea to put something on your resume that you can't do, because you end up paying for that. So you want to make it part of your tools, just like you know how to use Excel and you know how to use Word and whatever else. You want to make this part of your tools. For the current time, we'll be putting it on the resume. I imagine in a few years we won't be. It'll just be like nobody puts, I know, Excel as a skill on their resume. It's assumed if you're in the accounting or the accounts payable space, you know how to use Excel and then integrate it into your work processes. But we're here today. So some simple tactics on how you can use AI. Okay, in this first one, improve your writing. So sometimes, you write something, you write an email that you're going to send out, and you look at it and it's blah. It's like, oh, that's not inspiring. So just copy and paste it into, I like ChatGPT, and then you can say something like, please rewrite to make more interesting. Please rewrite to make it sound more professional. Please rewrite at an 8th grade reading level. Please rewrite at a 12th grade reading level. Please rewrite for an accounting audience, okay? So something that will just improve it and make it a little less blah. Please make more interesting, okay? The next issue, we talked about more targeted research. Now, I already gave you my example with the using Microsoft Copilot when you're trying to get an answer to a question rather than fighting through Google through all the ads, okay? The next one I want to note is there is software out there that if you include it in a meeting, probably an online meeting is best, it will take notes for the meeting, okay? So that can kind of eliminate that job. Any of these, by the way, when you put it in, you put your request in and you get the answer back, you need to review it and make sure it's accurate. You need to make sure that it didn't put something in there that A, is not true, which it will sometimes do, or that's just not you. So simple example, if you're writing a note to your boss and you have put down, please make it a little bit more friendly because you thought you sounded a little too cold and stiff, for example. You don't want it to start off with, hey, dude, okay? Probably not the way you're going to address your boss. So you might want to do that. And also, it can give you help with macros. Now, well, I want to just talk for 30 seconds about macros, which, by the way, is not my strong suit. But anyway, some of you are probably very good with macros. And, whenever you have to fix a macro or change it a little bit, it's a problem. It's especially a problem if somebody else designed it and that person's left the company, all these different things. When you use ChatGPT or one of the AI tools, you are able to upload you can attach a file. So there's a little paper clip and you can attach a file. You may be able to get the same information without writing the macro. So I'm going to be very interested to see over time, over the next few years, how macros in Excel evolve, but you might be able to get it help with that. Also, some of them will do some programming. Okay, these are just some very simple ideas of how you can embrace it, how you can use it. But again, check everything because it makes mistakes. It's getting better. It's getting a lot better, but it's nowhere near perfect. That's also my way of saying don't use it for your 1099 research. Okay, so as I mentioned, you want to master the art of creating AI queries. And how do you do this? It just takes practice. You have to be, I will tell you, very precise. The more information you give it, the better your answer will be. Let me give you a simple example. I was doing a presentation, I think it was when I was doing for MHC, as a matter of fact. We're talking about AI, and I wanted to get all my pictures using AI, like this one, although this one is not created by AI. And so the first query I put in, I wanted a clock, and I said, give me a picture of a clock. And it came back and it gave me, I don't know, 5 places where I could buy a picture of a clock. I didn't want to buy a picture of a clock. I wanted it to draw me a picture. So I put in, draw me a picture of a clock, and then it came back with it drew me 4 pictures and it gave me one to choose from. So you have to learn how to be very precise. It takes a little bit of effort, but it will do exactly what you tell it to do, which is why you have to be very precise. It's kind of interesting. So one of the, when you're mastering your art, keep in mind, one of the most in-demand skills is going to be somebody who can craft good and accurate AI queries. And so you want to keep track of the ones that you do and what works and what doesn't. Okay, yes, maybe you'll remember some of them, but some of them you won't. And like everything else, the way you get good at this, the way you get better at this is through practice, 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 practice. Okay. So start your practice. And then again, save queries that you want to repeat. And also ask your colleagues. Some of them will have thought of different ways of approaching it, things that you may not have thought of, and you want to, share your intelligence. And if you have any queries, by the way, that work in your AP space or your accounting space, we hope you'll share them, as I've been asking. Okay, now you also want to find new ways to automate, and this will, it's a combination of the technology and the AI, and where one ends and the other starts, it's becoming blurred. But you can use this for your data analytics. You can use this to help you find duplicates. And as I kind of alluded to already, you can use this to eliminate many macros. So remember, you can upload a file. Remember, you use that little paperclip. That's a new innovation, by the way. Originally, ChatGPT came out, it was version 3.5. That is in ChatGPT version 4.0. In the free version, it only gives you a certain number of them, but you can, make sure you've got your fields labeled very accurately. Upload the file and ask it, can you find any potential duplicate payments? Can you find any potential duplicate vendors? Is there the same address, etc. You can look for this, okay? And most of these tools, by the way, have free and paid versions. And I believe that we are going to approach the time when we can eliminate certain macros. If you've labeled your columns and rows very accurately in Excel, and then you'll be able to ask, if you ask very targeted questions, you may be able to do that instead of a macro. That's where we're headed. Okay, so what else can you do? You can use AI to generate emails. If you get the same request over and over again, let it generate a common answer, and then you can use it. You can also get it to help you with your emails, getting it to write some simple ones. So for example, write me an email to set up a meeting with Mark Jones to discuss cash flow. You just give it a few bullet points and then it will come back. And then when it comes back and you look at it and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. That sounds like somebody who's got a stick up, what, then you could say, could you make it a little more friendly? Could you make it a little more polite if it's the other way? Okay, so you get where I'm going with that, I hope. Now, this one's for you. Okay, this is for you personally. You want to think about ways that AI can help you. Okay, if you make a lot of grammatical errors and you do, it can clean up your grammar. Likewise, it can clean up your writing. If you don't write that well, you know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. You can use it that way. You can also use it to respond to requests. So you could even, please politely respond no to the following message, and then just paste it in there, copy it and paste it in there, and then it will give you a polite response. I tried to get it to help me rearrange furniture. When we were moving, I wanted to see if it would help me with the furniture layout. It was not a success there, but it'll get better. Okay, the next thing, this was kind of interesting, is it can help you with job searches and job research when you're doing it. So let me tell you my example. When I was putting this together, actually. So on my computer, probably you see the same thing on your computer. When I log in the morning, it gives me some basic information, and it tells me the weather of where we're located. Except my computer, we now live in Massachusetts, and we lived for a number of years in Delaware. And my computer, for some reason, still thinks we're in Delaware. And so every morning I get the weather in Delaware. So I got into, when I was trying to do this thing, and I went into I went into Microsoft Copilot, and I said, can you tell me some open accounts payable positions? And it, blah, 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 I thought a minute, and it came up with 3. It said, here are 3 positions that would be available to you in Pine Hills, Massachusetts. Pine Hills is a portion of Plymouth, Massachusetts. It somehow figured out the right place where I was located versus my main computer, the computer which somehow thinks I'm in Delaware. I don't know how it did that, but it's also a little bit scary. So, for example, if you're looking for a job that allows remote work, it came up with 2 positions for accounts payable coordinators near here, and it also came up with 2 that with remote work, so you can use it for that. Likewise, I always recommend to somebody when they're going on a job interview, before they go, they put the company name in and they do on news and look for any news about that particular company. And when you do a Google search like that, you got to sift through a whole bunch of garbage. Well, you use Microsoft Copilot, it gives you a nice summary. Okay, so I thought that is interesting. Okay, excuse me a minute. Okay, so what are you going to do? What does this mean for you? Okay, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Some of it you're like, that's not for me, or that wouldn't work here, or we've already done that. And you want to make a list, okay? And on your list, you want to include whatever you decide you want to do. You may have something, by the way, that we didn't discuss, and then so include that, okay? Just because I didn't think of it doesn't mean you didn't. You probably have better ideas. And then you want to prioritize it in the order that you want to approach it. And you want to prioritize it 2 things. One that might have the biggest impact, and then one that was what's easiest to do. Now, the biggest impact, sometimes you can't do that because the item that has the biggest impact also requires an investment of money that you can't get allocation of funds from your company, or you need somebody from IT to help you, and the IT is backlogged. So you'll have to take that into consideration. But don't overlook the stuff that's easiest to do, even if it doesn't have as big an impact as some of the other things. What you want to do is you might want to knock off 3 of those easy to do things, because that way you can then, when you have your annual review and you go in, you can say we did 1, 2, 3, and 4. You don't have to say one of them took half an hour. Just, you have something to say. There are lots of opportunities. We're at kind of the crossroads, if you will. Lots of opportunities now for those who are willing to adapt to the new environment. And I have to tell you, it's not that hard, okay? And as always, management teams are always looking for those who can make recommendations for process improvements and implement them. And today, all everybody wants to hear is AI technology. So as many of these things as that you can find, you can do it. And please, really, the ChatGPT and the Microsoft Copilot that I use are free. I do not have the paid versions of them, so you can use them as well. So sometimes people will say, well, I don't how can I find the time? And I have some examples here. If you've seen me do other talks, you've probably seen this slide, so I'm going to go through it real quickly. Both Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey like to use what they say called the 5-hour rule, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, usually enough time to learn something new. In my humble opinion, that's more than enough time to learn both ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. I'm willing to bet you could learn each of them in less than half an hour. So 1 hour. Okay, at your lunch hour, yeah, it's nice to hang out with your friends and gossip and whatnot, but think about 1 or 2 days a week, maybe sitting at your desk and reading something educational, watching educational YouTube videos. As I said, at AP Now, we have a channel. We have over 600 videos, most of them 10, 15, 20 minutes long. MHC has put some of their past webinars on their website. Just be careful that you don't spend the time watching cat videos. Okay? One of my friends, she has a cup of tea every afternoon, and she reads something that she's found that she wants to learn a little bit more about. So what I like to recommend is that we all take a page from Nike. Just do it. You can, and I think the results will surprise you. All right. So, and I'm real curious with this. This is our last polling question. Which do you think will make the most changes within your organization? Several small process changes. This is covering on my thing. Incorporating AI into AP. Unnecessary reporting. other. And I'm curious to see what, I'd really like to see if somebody has other and what they're suggesting, but well, we'll see what you have. Okay, and 47% said several small changes, 29% said AI, and 4% said other. I wonder if that means we've got 4 comments. Let's see, let me go look at the comments. The chat. Okay, no, we don't. All righty, and do we have any questions? Let me look.
Yeah, feel free to submit any questions you have into that Q&A box. We do have one, Mary.
Okay.
What are common overlooked AP tasks that can be streamlined?
Okay, so first of all, when we talk about other tasks that can be streamlined, there are 2. Number 1 is this unnecessary reporting that many organizations are doing. I think that inevitably, people don't look at it. The next thing that I want to talk about, and this is a biggie, is duplicate invoices. I know in AP, we understand we're probably getting 25%. My rough statistics are 25% of all invoices that come in are duplicates, and you need to weed them out. And even if it only takes a minute or 2 minutes to weed it out, that adds up, and that's a lot of time. And I don't think most management teams are aware of it, and nor have they allocated extra resources to AP. So as much as you can get rid of those duplicate invoices, and of course, when you get those duplicate invoices, inevitably a few of them will slip through, and those lead to duplicate payments, and that is not a good thing.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up our webinar for today. So thank you, Mary, and thank you all for attending. If you're interested in learning more about what's going on at MHC, please register for our monthly newsletter and you'll receive reminders about upcoming webinars and interesting thought leadership content like our great session today. A link to that will be included with our follow-up email, so be sure to register. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, thanks everyone, and good luck.